Hey, Mitch.
Oh, hey, Ed, how's it going?
Yeah, pretty good. Do you think we're ever going to catch a shark?
Oh, I know all about shark fishing, Ed. I was on the Indianapolis.
What's the Indianapolis?
You don't know about the Indianapolis?
No.
Oh, Ed. There we were, coming back from our secret mission where we delivered the bomb, the atom bomb, the Hiroshima bomb. And then we got hit by two torpedoes from a Japanese sub. You know how you can tell how big it was, Ed? You look at the dorsal fin to the tail. Ed, did you ever look in a shark's eye? It's lifeless. It's a black eye. It's like a doll's eye. And then it was Thursday morning, Ed, and I was there. My best friend came floating by. His name was Harvey Simpson. I knew him. He was from Cleveland. He was a baseball player. Oh, I tell you, it was something else.
Hey,
And then
hey,
Thursday.
hey,
What?
Bruce!
Oh,
Bruce!
Springsteen? Oh,
Bruce!
look at that, Ed. That's a great white. You know how you can tell, Ed? The dorsal tail. That one there's got to be about 30. Oh my God!
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Hi, this is Ed Dollister.
And this is Mitch Halleck.
Welcome to another exciting episode of Mitch and Ed's Excellent Adventure. If it's your first time here, welcome. Hope you enjoy the show. If you are a regular, thanks so much for coming back. And welcome also to all our new subscribers. It's great that we're getting new subscribers with each episode. We really appreciate it. Hey, Mitch, if you are interested in finding out when a new show of ours drops or having a look at, some of our past shows, what can you do?
Oh, and it is easy as getting into a shark cage and lowering yourself into the shores of Amity, waiting for a great white shark to eat your face off. All you have to do is hit the subscribe button right below, and you too will go on an epic adventure with me and Ed every time we go looking at TV, movies, and more right here on the almighty YouTube. Please subscribe.
That'll be great. And we're talking about Jaws from 1975 by classic filmmaker Steven Spielberg. Now, I'm going to ask this. Did you see Jaws in the cinemas?
I did, Ed. I did. I was a mere child of, I think, 1975. Well, you know what? It was one of those movies back in the day that ran for almost like a full year.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw it, what you would consider in a second run theater right near my house. And we went there, and it was still a full house. And I remember the audience reaction to this movie screaming, yelling. But I'll tell you, the biggest pop up scare is when Richard Dreyfuss as Hooper goes in the boat looking to see what happened, and I can't think of his name off the top of my head. Uh, oh, but the head floats up,
Yes.
and like I think there's like a worm in the eye, the eyeballs hanging out or something like that, and the audience screamed so loud I could hear it in my ears, and popcorn went flying everywhere, as everyone was just terrified when they saw that head just bobbing up
That's
and
right.
down.
That was one of the great jump scares in
Yeah,
movie
yeah, yeah.
history. And guess what? Actually, that
What?
was a pickup shot because Steven Spielberg was saying he needed to have one extra sort of fright in it, apart from when Brody sees the shark and he does that whole
Yeah,
for the first time. He needed something else in there. So they wanted to get an extra piece of an extra scene in there. The
yeah,
company Universal
yeah.
wouldn't do it, so that Steven Spielberg actually paid $2,000 or $3,000 to get that all done. They filmed it in, I believe it was like the film editor's swimming pool where
Oh
they
wow,
covered it. Yeah, they covered the water with a tarpaulin. They put some milk in the swimming pool to give it that sort of to match the
that
the
murky look. Yeah,
ocean look, and
ocean.
they filmed that there and with stand-ins for Richard Dreyfuss, and it
Oh,
really
that's not
worked.
even Dreyfus.
Not for
That's the
the
stand-in?
not for when he does the reveal. They just did some
Yeah.
other shots. Yeah.
Oh wow, I did not know that.
So
I
it
can
was
remember it
a
like yesterday. Yeah.
absolutely, it was a film that sort of captured the imagination and the terrors of everyone who saw it. And as I said earlier, it was the first blockbuster. It was the first film to ever make $100 million at the box office in record time. Before that was The
The
Godfather, which was
Exorcist. Oh yeah,
and
The
The Exorcist
Godfather.
were sort
Yeah.
of big films, but this was the first film to do it in such a quick succession. It soon took over the box office of The Godfather, which I think was the biggest at that point. And it went on to make $270 million, multiple sequels and everything like that. However, it wasn't that easy to actually film because
Mm-mm.
there was a lot of problems with this film.
Oh yeah, yeah. One of the things around here is they filmed it up here in Martha's Vineyard, which is off the coast of Massachusetts. Great place. I've been there many times. Even got this shirt here uh, for the 30th anniversary. In fact, I got engaged in Martha's Vineyard, but that's neither here nor there, Ed. The crew by Mr. Spielberg and his, camera crew, they never filmed in salt water. I don't know what they were thinking. And salt water is not like working in a tank at a studio where it's fresh water because it's a whole other animal, literally. And they went out there and they didn't know anything about the tides. They didn't know anything about currents. And it was just a nightmare. And I think they even end up hiring some of the locals to work on the crew because they knew everything. They're fishermen. They knew exactly how things worked and, what time of day you would go out, when the water would be still, and what not to put in the water. Because one of the problems they had is salt water is very corrosive
Mm-hmm.
and it was just destroying the camera equipment, the lighting, and all that stuff too. Plus, you got actors who are not, good out in the ocean. I know Robert Shaw got seasick very easily. And most of the time he's in that movie, when the camera's cut, he's thrown up on the side of the boat because he couldn't stand the motion going up and down and everything too. So that helped make it a longer production shoot. Plus, Ed, there was a lot of drinking on that set. Let me just tell you, when you go to Edgartown in Massachusetts, where they filmed, that's where Brody is, and when they go to the town hall, and when he walks into the general store to get all the supplies, that's all there. I mean, that's not like Hollywood backlot sets. Those are real
Mm-hmm.
buildings in the town of Edgartown. So you can walk through there now, and you think you're on the set of Jaws. And they all stayed right down there. There was a hotel, an inn. It's still there, and the crew and the actors, they were all just drinking and have a good time because I think they gave Spielberg, I think it was like 40 days to shoot that movie,
Mm-hmm.
but it went on for, I'm going to say, over 100
It
days.
was
I mean,
7 months it took to
it was
film.
over, yeah, it was over budget, it was over production schedule, it was a mess from word go. And Spielberg himself, this is his first big Hollywood blockbuster. He was just known for TV movies like Duel and Columbo. He was a TV guy.
He
So
had
he had a
just
lot.
he had just done Sugarland Express, but they were looking for a number of directors. But Steven Spielberg was certainly up there, given Duel, because Duel was Dennis Weaver against a giant truck.
Demonic
That's
monster.
right.
Yeah, kind of like
This
a
one
shark
is about
on wheels. Yeah.
Brody against a giant shark, and they could see the correlation there. But yes, it was so it was very exciting, but it was his first big budget movie. And I did read that he was a bit of a perfectionist on the set, but didn't realize what he had gotten into. And again, as you said, filming on open water, the first time any major motion picture did that. And the problems stemmed with the shark called Bruce,
Yeah.
which was named after Spielberg's lawyer, I believe. It just didn't work.
No, it did not work. In fact, there's a great documentary called "The Shark Is Still Working," or because that's what they would hear all the time. Richard Dreyfuss makes a joke about that they'd be setting up for a shot, and the crew would come over on the walkie-talkies, and they would say, the shark's not working. Quick, the shark's not working. So they would have to scrub the whole filming because you couldn't do that. But out of adversity comes ingenuity. Because of that, Spielberg had to go for more conceptual and more visual things. He had, the shark itself wasn't working, the robot they built. So he had to do the suggestion that the shark was there. So you get a lot of moody, waves and water and darkness and just the element of this, like your imagination is what created that shark in your mind. Plus,
Absolutely.
you got the brilliant score by John Williams with the dum boom, boom. Very primeval, not very elaborate, but it just scared you. And when you go on the open water, I mean, even to this day, even hey, if I go into a dirty bathtub, I'm a little scared right now because you don't know what's underneath there.
That's
It's
right.
like going into outer space. You have no idea what's underneath those waves. It could be a little tiny seahorse, it could be a little sunfish, or it could be a 30-foot great white shark that's going to eat you in two. So, I mean, you had all that going for you. People just have a natural fear of the ocean, you know. And
Well, you were saying with in particular the scene with the yellow barrels where they're chasing
yeah,
the shark.
yeah,
That was all that had all come out of that the shark wasn't working, so they had to come up with a way to show that they were pursuing the shark, and it
yeah.
works really well. You know, you just see a glimpse of the
Oh
a
yeah,
glimpse of the fin here
the
or
fin,
a
yeah.
flash of the face there, and that is all you really need. And again, you know, people you know, maybe modern audiences will go, "Oh, that the shark looks a
Well,
little fake," but you know
you
what?
know what?
It still looks pretty good, I think.
Let me just tell you something. You talk about that, the modern audiences, because like I said, back in '75 when I saw it when I was a kid, I had to be 9 years old. And I remember watching this movie, and I remember at the end of the movie, spoiler alert if you haven't seen a movie that's almost 50 years old, when Scheider shoots the tank that's in the shark's mouth and it explodes, boom, you know, blows up, and you know, smile, you son of a bitch, boom, and it goes up. The audience, that was the first time I had been there, experienced something like that. Audience was on their feet, clapping and cheering and yelling like such a relief because you were so upset. You were watching Robert Shaw get killed. You didn't know what happened to Richard Dreyfuss.
Hmm.
It had killed like the little Kitchener kid. Everybody, the naked chick swimming in the beginning, everybody was murdered by this demonic creature, you know, this prehistoric eating machine. And then he kills it with one shot, you know, boom, blows up, right? Such a relief. Everybody's happy. Boom, 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 clapping. You wouldn't see that audience participation, audience reaction until next year when you had the Rocky movies, which we also have done a YouTube video, and you should go watch
Yes.
that right now. And so that was like the next big summer or a big audience participation, followed by, of course, the following year in '77 when George Lucas, Steven Spielberg's buddy, would make Star Wars, which also had people on their feet clapping. So you're talking about a magical time
Mm.
in 1975. It's really 75 that starts this movie where the hero's coming back, because I know they all give it to George Lucas and Star Wars, saying, "Oh, the world was just depressed from the Vietnam War, and then you had the corruption with Richard Nixon, and everybody was just anti-hero, and Luke Skywalker saved the day." But it really starts here in Jaws when you got the average guy, you know, man versus nature type of thing, and he succeeds, and then you got Rocky who succeeds, the underdog. So it's really '75 that begins that
Hmm.
pattern of like triumphant, you know, one-on-one man, you know, underdog wins and all that stuff. And Jaws, I think that's why it was such a phenomenal success. And like you said, the book rights were around for years by Peter Benchley, who's actually in the movie. He has a
Yes.
cameo as the reporter. That's the state beach, by the way. If you ever come back up to the States and you ever want to go to Martha's Vineyard, I'll take you out there. That's on the main drag between Oaks Bluff and Edgartown.
Yep.
There's a long stretch of road, and that beach where they have those little pavilions, those little tents that set up there where Brody's sitting there and you see the
Yes.
camera zoom out. That's just the main public beach. And in fact, that little bridge that goes to the little lagoon when the shark goes into the lagoon and then
Mhm.
bites that guy in the rowboat. It's like, hey, what are you kids doing over there? You know, and then next thing you know, his leg is floating down because he got eaten by the shark. And Sheriff Brody's kids see the whole thing and they're traumatized by it. That's all right there. That's in that one little stretch of road. So there's most of the Jaws movie right there.
I can sense a road trip on our next
No,
trip.
seriously, because I jumped off the bridge. There's a little bridge there. A lot of folks just get up and they jump off. It's like 12 feet into the water. I've done that. My kids have done that, and it's just so because you've seen Jaws so many times. It's always on. It's
Yeah.
like Star Wars, and it's always on TV. It's like Captain America: The Winter Soldier. It seems to be on like every other day, and you can't stop when you watch it. You have to see it through the end. You can't just turn it on for a minute. No matter when it's on, you pick it right up because you know the story in your head. You know what's going to happen, and it goes by so fast now.
Mm.
Like I watch Jaws now, and I can't believe like, oh, we're already here. We're already in the Orca. We're already at the end of the movie. Boom, 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 and it happens so quickly. But that, like I was saying, that movie there, you just know everything. You walk around the streets of Martha's Vineyard, you know everywhere you are. You're like, oh my God, that's the scene here where Brody's going to say this, and that's over there. where I can't think of his
The
name.
mayor, where the mayor is going to
The
be.
mayor is, yeah. And they have the town hall meeting, and you see the chalkboard, and he comes scratching the board, and it's like, you know, I don't know. It's something to see. I don't know many places that you can go to for such an iconic movie that really haven't changed, because it's such an old New Englandy sailing town, whaling town, fisherman's
Mhm.
town. They don't really change a lot. It's not like there's high rise skyscrapers there. You go to Martha's Vineyard, even though Jaws was in 1974, 75 filming, it's like they filmed it last week. So it's really a good thing to do.
I'm excited about heading there. I think that would be really cool. I
They
think the other
used to have a
thing,
guy up here in New York that had all the props, because a lot of that stuff you mentioned,
yes,
they just Hollywood just leaves stuff. When Hollywood goes to his town and films a movie, like when they did Indiana Jones here in New Haven,
yeah,
you think they want all the stuff. They don't. They don't want to store it in a warehouse that they're never going to use again, because that costs money. So they just leave everything there. They leave wires and cables and props, and a lot of those barrels that you talk about, all that was left there. The shark itself, I think, was rotted away,
hmm
if I recall. They just like, yeah, we're done with this thing because it wasn't working to begin with. And somebody took it and they rebuilt the whole thing. So there's a lot of genuine props from Jaws that are still around this area that you can go find. But
So you certainly would be worth visiting if you are a Jaws fan, if you haven't already. I think
go to
the other
Martha's
thing
Vineyard.
that makes Jaws successful, we spoke about how, you don't see the shark and it's your imagination that does all the filling in the blanks. Steven Spielberg said at one point, originally this was going to be just like a B sort of movie where you would see the shark right away, and having the shark not working essentially turned him from filming like Ray Harryhausen to filming like Alfred Hitchcock,
Hitchcock.
where
Yeah.
he got to be a little bit more clever in the way that he presented it. But it also worked, I think, with you spoke about the Everyman, where the characters are all very well-rounded, realistic characters, and you've got Roy Scheider, you've got Richard Dreyfuss, and Robert Shaw, Lorraine Gary, and Murray Hamilton, who plays the mayor, is also fan. I loved his checked shirts. It was so mid-70s. It
The
was
little
fantastic.
anchors he had on his
Yes.
jacket. Yeah.
Which was an amazing an amazing cast, all believable, quite different to the actual novel. If you've ever read Jaws, you'll find
I
out
have not.
that Hooper, Richard Dreyfuss's character, was originally in the book having an affair with Brody's wife.
Really?
That they cut out. He didn't. I keep hitting my my ship's
Well,
wheel here.
Lorraine Gray, is Lorraine Gary?
Yeah.
Yeah, she only got the part. She's Zanuck's wife, right?
Yes.
She's the producer's wife. She slept with
Yep.
the producer to get the part.
So, well, that's right. So, she was there. Also, Richard Dreyfuss's character originally, in the book dies when he gets attacked by the shark. However, there's an Australian connection to
There is an Australian. I knew you were going to mention it. That husband and wife team,
Ronna and Valerie Taylor, who are
Yes.
legends amongst
shark people.
oceanographers, and basically they took all the shark footage off the coast of South Australia, and
Yeah.
what they did is they had the film with what they did is they filmed underwater
The
with a
little guy.
smaller statued person, so that
Yeah.
the shark looked even bigger than it was in reality. But they got some amazing footage that enabled Richard Dreyfuss's character to survive, because actually with the shark, it broke into the shark.
Broke into the cage.
Yeah,
That's in the movie. That
he
thing
was
is
able
ripping
to-
that thing apart. Yeah.
yeah. So, I mean, that's all real, and they did some amazing work, and they would come back later on Jaws 2 in 1978 as well, to use some of the footage there. But
No, I remember them. They would be on like a lot of talk shows in the day, and they would talk about, the making of the movie. And I remember that scene you're talking about there. And did they not invent some type of like shark proof?
the
wetsuit?
metal mesh, it was like
like a chainmail type of
yes.
thing. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
yeah. So I'm wearing some right now. So there you go.
Oh, yeah,
Every
yeah.
Australian wears it just in case.
I
because
know you people. You just got sharks
I
everywhere.
mean, you come out
That-
here and something's going to attack you without
Killer
even
spiders, brown spiders, whatever you got.
Yeah.
Everything snakes. The whole place is trying
That's
to kill
right.
you.
Oh no!
But,
See,
no,
the sharks
no,
The sharks going. Ugh.
Now the thing of it is, I remember the whole tagline was, you'd be afraid to go in the water. I was terrified. Nobody was going in the water. I remember that. I'd go over to my grandfather's cottage, and it was fresh water. Fresh water,
Yeah.
mind you. Not known to have great white sharks. Those are saltwater creatures. But you did not want to go in that ocean. I want to go in the river, the freshwater river, the lake. You were terrified. I mean, I think beaches across the country saw a decline in people swimming that summer because they were so afraid of sharks,
Yes.
because everyone started thinking that. In fact, there was a guy here in Long Island who they said they based the Quint character after. And I
Mhm.
can't think of his name right now, but he used to have a big gold earring, and he had the record for the biggest shark ever caught at the time off of Montauk, which is a part here off of Long Island. And I'm gonna say his name was Fisher. Maybe I'm wrong, even though he's a fisherman. But he was always on the local shows. He's like, "Oh, they based the Robert Shaw character after me, and I should be getting a paycheck from Hollywood, but I'm not getting it. That's all me. That's all me out there. I got the shark, and I'm the one that the Captain Quint's based on." But he was a little character around here on the docks and stuff. Everybody had shark stuff. Everybody was into sharks. I remember shark teeth necklaces or shark tooth
Yes.
necklaces. That was the big deal. Like you'd go to the beach and every cool kid at the arcade was wearing a little shark tooth around there,
Yeah.
you know? Yeah. Yeah.
I-
You know
I-
what's funny? Brody,
Yeah.
in the movie, when does Brody get fired in that? No, he gets fired in number 2. He comes home drinking. But in the beginning of that movie, one of the people that you see at a lot of conventions around here is the actress who's the, what do you want to call the skinny dipper in the
Yep.
beginning of the movie, who takes her clothes off and then goes out in the water there, and then the shark comes, and that's a horrible scene. I remember that as a kid. You see her and she starts going under the water,
Yep.
and then she starts going back and forth, grabbing on the buoy, thinking that she's all set, and then you hear bing, bing,
Hang on.
bing, bing,
The
bing,
the
bing.
what? The buoy.
Yeah,
You know what they call them in Australia?
Bob,
Boys.
boys,
Yeah.
BOYS instead of BUOS.
No, it's spelt the same, but we pronounce it boys.
Yeah, you people got a different word for everything. So, and then the guy comes the next day, and this is no boating accident, Ed. As you see, that was a gross scene too. That I remember, like the crabs were crawling all over what was left of her body. Oh,
Yes.
that was just nastiness.
I
there.
know. I never actually saw it in the cinemas. I saw
What?
Jaws 2 first in the cinemas because I was only 5. I couldn't go
I was
see.
gonna say you were just a kid.
I was a little a kid. I could not see it. So, but I did see it on
You know,
TV.
you know what's funny? I showed Jaws to my kids when they were little. They weren't phased at all.
Oh,
They were just like, okay. I was like, come on, it's the scariest movie ever. And I'm thinking maybe because we watched it on the TV, there's a different experience that happens when you're in a dark theater and it's
Yes.
a big screen, and the shark is massive. It doesn't translate. I mean,
No.
you're in the safety of your room, and you put the light on and you're fine and stuff. But when you're in a dark theater with a bunch of strangers, and that shark comes out of nowhere, you're like on the edge of your seat,
Well, again, you mentioned it earlier that people were terrified to go into the water. The actual tagline for that you sort of alluded to was actually the tagline for Jaws 2, because
Yeah,
Jaws
just when you thought
2
it was safe.
is just when you thought it was safe to go back in the water, which is the best tagline I think ever for a movie. It explains everything in just one sentence for Jaws 2. But people were terrified to go to the beach. There were reports of people who had this amazing fear. One woman I read about who just couldn't stop yelling shark. She just had this phobia and just went.
Yeah.
She went a little bit left of center because of this movie. So the other thing yeah,
I was gonna say you had Richard Dreyfuss at the time. He had American Graffiti. He had, I can't think of the movie, the seduction of blah blah blah.
Bobby Buzzard. I can't remember, but I know I've never seen that film. But the
I have
reason
seen
I
it.
was going to say the
It's good.
reason he saw like the preview of it, and he was
Yeah.
offered Jaws but didn't want it, and then he saw that film and he goes, "Oh my God, my performance is awful. I better say no one's going to hire me, so I better call Steven Spielberg and say, yeah, I'll take the part."
Yeah, and then the rest of the cast, you got Robert Shaw, who famously hated Richard Dreyfuss,
Mm.
or as he was known back then, Ricky Dreyfuss or Rick
Yeah.
Dreyfuss. He wasn't Richard Dreyfuss; it was Rick.
Yeah.
And they didn't get along well. The animosity between the two of those characters on screen is true off screen, because Robert Shaw thought he was a basic jackass, basically.
Mhm.
Couldn't stand the kid whatsoever. And Dreyfuss thought Robert Shaw was a big drunk, which he did have a bit of an alcohol problem.
Yeah.
Whatever. So, and the other one he got was one of the greatest actors ever, underrated, is Roy Scheider, who had come off of The French Connection.
Mhm.
And he's just like the Joe guy, the Joe American. He's just the
Yeah.
average Joe. He's just there, just trying to do his job, just get out there. He's a city guy who takes a job out here on an island, think it's going to be a cushy, kind of retirement type of thing. What can go wrong? What kind of crime is out there in a resort town in Amity, out in the middle of nowhere, But who knows what's going to happen to the poor guy?
That's right.
And he's
And
from a city.
they added his fear of water,
Water.
which
Yeah.
wasn't in the book. So they
No?
added that. Yeah, so they added that to give him a little
Have
bit
you
more
read
of a-
this book? Do you own this book, Ed?
I do. My actual copy of the book I sold at the shop a couple of
Oh.
months ago. But I do
Is it a
have
pri- is
and
it a
actually
price- Is
sorry.
it a pricey collectible?
It's I think I sold it for about $20,
Hmm.
which is pretty good. I mean, Peter Benchley, I do have a copy at the shop as well of The Deep, which he
The Deep,
was a
yeah,
bit
he
of a
did that other
theme.
movie.
And things like that. I should say, since we're talking a bit about collectibles and merchandise and things like that, this was sort of the first film that they really did a publicity blitz on, where a
Yeah.
month or so before the film, leading up just a few days after it, they did all these television ads, they did print ads, they did, as you said, those TV interviews. So it really got people excited, and that's what essentially helped drive that box office to those record numbers. And there was lots of merchandise as well, which you
Oh, yeah.
wouldn't think of necessarily. This is not a kid-friendly film, certainly.
Well, it was PG here. It was
Really?
It was. Oh yeah, it was a PG movie. Yeah.
I think it was rated. It was certainly M for mature. It was It was definitely NRC, which is not recommended for children in Australia. But because it came out in November, so both that and Jaws 2 came out in November, which is just about the start of our
This one
summer.
here was. This is what started that whole summer blockbuster type of thing that Star Wars would take on years later. And,
Yes.
and every movie to this day, what's the big summer blockbuster? Jaws is the first one to do that. That's that
Yes.
first Memorial Day weekend, 4th of July weekend that, you just take over the whole summer. So,
Well, they
That's
came
it.
out with a number of, merchandise opportunities. One was Rubber Sharks, which essentially they would just have a Jaws sticker on the back of the good old Rubber Shark. They had the Jaws board game, which I'll bring up over here. Which,
that one, yeah, I love that one. I remember that as a kid.
Yeah.
The mouth was full of a bunch of little different trinkets, and you had to get a long hook, and you would put it in there, and you would pick up the. There you go. It was almost like this. You were like the dentist, really, and you had to get the stuff out of there. And if you were wrong, the
They would
jaws would
snap. Hang on, I'll see
yeah,
if
they
I
would
can
snap
find-
shut on you.
There we
Yeah.
go. There's a bottle or something like that. So so there was that which came out. They're quite expensive now. To get them in the box,
Really?
they're a couple of $100.
Oh wow,
The other thing, of course, was the amazing soundtrack by John Williams,
John Williams, yeah.
which was absolutely amazing.
And again,
Tom-
if you listen
Yep.
to that album, I remember as a kid when they first introduced you to music appreciation, they would play Peter and the Wolf.
oh yes,
And that's when when I was a kid, I remember being in kindergarten, first grade, they would like, everybody had their own theme song, like here's the wolf, boom, 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 and then they'd have the little here comes Peter, blah, blah, blah. And then when you listen to that album, you could close your eyes, you know exactly what's going on in the movie, like when they got the barrels. And he's got two. He can't go down with two. And you can hear the music, dun 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 dun, dun and then the whole chase sequence going on. That music is so descriptive. John Williams did a fantastic job on that album that you literally could just put that on in the background, and your mind will create the entire movie with the dialogue
Yes.
and the whole thing. So yeah, he did a great job. Was he nominated for an Academy Award?
He
for
was
that one?
nominated and won for best score. It also won best, I think it was sound editing and best editing as well. It was nominated for best film, and but Spielberg
it
wasn't
lose to?
nominated for best director. So
What did it
um,
lose to that year?
now it lost to
I know Star Wars lost to Annie Hall. I know that in
Yes.
'77, which was like an outrageous.
75.
Lenny Bruce,
Oh,
I don't
that's
know.
right, with
Dustin
Dustin
Hoffman,
Hoffman.
and Valerie Perrine. Yeah,
no,
Might have been.
it lost to I will put it up right
We'll
now.
put it up right now.
Yeah. So Carl Gottlieb, who was a friend of Spielberg, who actually is also an actor who you can see in
It's in the
Mork and
movie.
Mindy and Laverne and Shirley and things like that. He also helped write the script. He brought out this great book, The Jaws Log.
Yep, I remember that. Yeah.
And that's when we've spoken about these before, where there's a King Kong one, there was one for Raiders
Oh,
Lost
the
Ark.
making of, yeah.
Yeah, there's Superman the movie as well, and of course, I've got to bring out the good old Super 8 movie.
Oh yeah. I'm gonna say they had ViewMaster, which is like a 3D type of thing that you'd put in. I'm sure they had it. I don't know. There was a lot of Jaws merchandise.
So obviously Jaws did amazing business. It it grossed over 200 million, and by the end of its run in America, made a boatload of money worldwide as well. So of course they wanted to do a sequel. They had a director attached to it. Spielberg wasn't involved, but the director pulled out, and then Spielberg was interested in maybe coming back. However, with Close Encounters of the Third Kind, so he had to drop out. So they now I'm going to butcher his name, Geno Swazor. I'll put it down here because
that guy, yeah,
who actually ended up directing. I think he directed Supergirl, if I'm mistaken, but he's done a lot of TV and things like that. So Jaws 2 comes along. The original cast come back. Brody's kids are all grown up. John Williams comes back with, some would say, I know that our indie casters, Ron Longo and probably Laird Malamed would say that the score for Jaws 2 is better than the score for Jaws, the original. But Jaws 2 came out. There's my Super 8 version.
Yeah.
Of that's the one I really remember.
I remember I read the movie adaptation of that book, because they
Yes.
always had movie adaptations back then. And I remember they went inside the mind of the shark to try to give you its motivations. Besides the fact it's just an act of nature and a eating machine that doesn't really think about it. But in the book, it was a female shark who was pregnant, and she was like coming back to like spawning area or whatever like that. And there was I remember reading that and going, "Are you serious? We're giving this the shark a motivation for why it's killing people?" But there was that too. But again, that's actually not a bad movie as sequels go. Jaws,
you know
2
what?
is pretty
You're
decent.
absolutely right. It gets, when films, the original film is held in such high regard, and it is a wonderful film. It is absolutely amazing.
Oh, of course,
Jaws 2 as a sequel is really quite good. They tried things differently. The score is fantastic. John Williams is back with that.
And Scheider's great, and the acting's great.
Yes.
And
that's where you got a lot of merchandise. I should have said they also made for the
trading cards.
Jaws. No, not for the.
No, they did.
No,
the Jaws 2 had trading cards.
Yes, it did, but
not the first one. No,
but they did do model kits for the original Jaws, which are pretty cool.
You can get I remember you get the Orca, which was the Captain Quint's ship.
Yes,
and you could get that, and it was like you could get the shark coming up and mesh. It was the end of the movie. That's another thing we didn't talk about. Another thing besides, I can't think of the damn guy's name who owned the boat. It's like one of these things. Of course, I know it's like Biggs Darklighter. It's one of these things, but I can't think of it right now. But shouldn't drink before the show. But anyway, what happened is when Captain Quint, Robert Shaw, goes down into the shark's mouth and it bites down on him, and the blood comes squirting out because he had a little tiny squib, they call it, in his mouth, and just bit on it, and the blood flew. I remember that scene haunting me. To this day, as soon as I can see him slide down there, he starts going into it, and the shark bites him and then takes him in the water. It was gross watching that blood squirt out of his mouth like that, Well, and that was in the model kit. I remember you could buy the model kit of the shark, destroying the Orca and the ship on its side, and you can make a little Captain Quint going inside of it. So,
well, did you know that Spielberg wanted not a lot of red shown? Like a lot of the characters don't have red, or it's all very muted. If there is any red, because he wanted the red of the blood to be,
shocking. So
really shocking. So on there. So Jaws 2, it made over $100 million. It was it opened actually. Here's an interesting piece of trivia. It opened the same weekend as Grease.
Really?
Okay?
Oh
Yep.
yeah, it's 78. Yeah.
And both films made, I think, in their opening day like $9 million. It's the first time that two films had ever made that much at the same amount of time. And obviously, Grease went on to make more money than Jaws 2, but
yeah.
both were, super successful. So I think people forget that Jaws 2 was a success and is the best regarded. We won't talk about Jaws 3D,
no, Jaws 3,
which I did see.
3D. That's a
I
3D
did see
movie.
that.
Dennis Quaid, and I saw that in the theaters. That was a bad movie. I remember Roy Scheider doing an interview with Rona Barrett, who was a Hollywood reporter back in the day.
Was she on Entertainment Tonight?
Yeah, I bet she would go on to that, but back in the 70s, she would be on like 2020, which was a news program. And I remember they interviewed Roy Scheider about Jaws 2, and he was sitting there doing the interview, and they said, what if they do a Jaws 3? And he kind of looks at her, and he kind of like gets ready to jump off the boardwalk they were on into the water because he didn't want to be any part of a Jaws 3. But you know what? It's a good thing it wasn't a Jaws 3 because that was a crappy movie.
Yes.
But yeah, I did. Oh, he had Blue Thunder. I'm thinking, did he ever have a big hit after that? But after Jaws 2, he had Blue Thunder. Of course, he did the Bob Fosse story, which he got nominated for Academy Award for Best Actor. And then he went on to Sequest DSV. Yeah, and then he did a bunch of other movies before. He was in the Punisher movie with Thomas Jane, and then he passed away. I think he was only like 70. He had cancer at the end, though. But he was a great actor. Whenever you saw Roy Scheider, you just liked the guy instantaneously. It's like he never did a bad performance. He was always really cool. Robert Shaw then goes down Force 10 from Navarone.
That was 78. And
I
then
remember thinking, how big a cast is that movie? You have Han Solo, Captain Quint, and Apollo Creed.
Jaws. Hang on. You've got Jaws.
Yeah. Richard Kiel. Yeah. And then you've got Barbara Bach, who was gorgeous at the time. And then you had Franco Nero.
Yes.
And Edward Fox. That was a great cast, too. That's another thing.
That's not a bad movie at all.
No, it's not a bad movie. Robert Shaw had a good career after that film as well. And is Robert Shaw also in The Deep? Or am I thinking of a different actor? It's Nick Nolte, Jacqueline Bisset, and somebody else.
I am thinking, but I have a feeling that Robert Shaw passed away in 1978.
I remember he died of a heart attack, and maybe like 50. He wasn't that old.
No.
But he did a lot of drinking. Of course, before that, probably the best known role he ever had was from Russia with Love.
Yes.
Where he played the baddie in the James Bond second movie back in the day with Sean Connery back in 1964.
And with regards to that, his wife suggested that he wasn't that interested in that doing the Bond film, and his wife suggested that he should do it, and he wasn't that interested in doing Jaws because he didn't like the book, and his wife suggested, and his secretary suggested he do Jaws as well, and he goes, well, since they were right with Bond, I think I should do Jaws. So,
there you go. Always listen to your wife, kiddies.
That's right.
And you'll be better off for it too. But no, and then Jaws 3, and then the horrible movie,
Jaws 4,
Jaws Revenge with Lorraine Gary,
Caine.
Michael Caine, and they give him crap about Jaws 4, but it's like he paid for a beautiful house in Bermuda. So I mean, Caine he's not going to hold back. He does things for the money, and that movie was done just for the money, and that was it. But it also spawned a lot of cheap rip-off movies. We had Richard Harris and Bo Derek in Orca.
Yes.
Which was a bad movie. And then we had Tentacles, which is a movie I saw in the movie theaters, which was about a man-eating octopus that was stalking people.
I was a man-eating octopus the other day at a restaurant. But anyway.
Oh, well, there you go. Yeah. And then...
there was, don't forget, Piranha. There was Mako, Jaws of Death. It sort of spawned that.
Blue Water, White Death. My dad took me to see that movie. It was like a documentary, but it was about real sharks and such like that. But I'll tell you one thing, all the sharking caused a lot of people to go out and start hunting. There's a bad side to this too. People would go out and start killing sharks because everyone saw Jaws and they thought every single shark was a man-eater, which is not the case at all. And it's very rare that people actually get attacked by sharks, even where you live, where it's like Shark City down there.
It is.
It's not. it doesn't happen a lot. I mean, let me tell you, up here at the Cape Cod, you can go swimming in the water off of Chatham, and they'll take aerial photos where you're swimming. Not too far away from you, there's a big black shadow in the water, and it's a big great white shark. It's happened a lot more in the last couple of years because the water's gotten warmer, so the sharks come closer to shore. But there's a huge seal population up in Truro, Massachusetts. You'll go up there, and the seals are all there, and a lot of them have big scars on their face because the sharks come and they eat the seals. And lots of times folks will get attacked by sharks only because they think it's a seal, because you'll see guys in a wetsuit on a surfboard paddling out there, and the shark comes up and goes after it. It's not like they got a malicious, let's go eat people today type of thing going on. And the other thing I was going to say is Land Shark, which was parodied on Saturday Night Live. Chevy Chase would dress up. They would knock on people's door, and you'd hear the Jaws music, and they'd say, "Who is it?" And he's like, "Land Shark." And they would just do this bit with a head kind of like you have back there, and he would just eat people and take them away. So that was, they rode the Jaws parody for, I think, a couple years. Everybody was doing Jaws jokes. Mad Magazine had their Jaws version of it, all that type of thing. So it was a very successful movie, probably the biggest hit until I'm going to say Star Wars comes out in 1977. I mean, that's all people talk about.
Yeah, absolutely right.
T-shirts. Everybody had the T-shirt, a white shirt with a shark on the outside. Everybody loves sharks.
That famous, well, essentially this, which was the artwork that was for the novel, and they got the artist to also do the movie poster as well. But
there's a Jaws video game.
There is.
My kids played it. You were the shark, and you got to go and eat people.
Yep.
There's
been
crazy.
A few. Of late, we talk about obviously pop culture here in the show, and there is a lot of resurgence of Jaws memorabilia. My coffee cup, which I got at a supermarket the other day.
Sharknado.
Well, that's another thing. That's sort of taking on the modern day Jaws in a bad way, I guess. But there are pop vinyls. There's Jaws board games as well. There's the T-shirts. We got
there's a Funko. Yeah, there's
T-shirt and things like that. So there's lots of stuff out there if you are interested.
I think there's even a Hallmark ornament for Jaws.
I'm sure there is, but there's also some great documentaries out there if you are interested. If we have, going, I'd like to find out a little bit more.
Well, I was going to say one last thing before we wrap it up. The best Jaws interactive event or whatever was at Universal Studios.
Oh, of course.
They used to have the Jaws ride. They don't have it any longer. They had it out in California. They had it down here in Florida. I remember they had it in the early 2000s because I took my son, Owen, and Spencer. To this day, they still haunt me about that, because if you go to the island adventure of the Hollywood, Florida, there's a big lagoon in the middle of the amusement park, and you could cross over to the other side, and they had the Jaws ride. Now, I didn't think anything about it, so I took my kids on board. They didn't realize what Jaws was. So as you go, the tour guide was giving the thing, "Hey, welcome to Amity Island, and this is where the boats come." And you see the little fin, dun 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 dun, and they would go, "Oh, let's get a shotgun," and they'd shoot the water, and it would put the shark down. But I forgot they did have a big mechanical shark. So at the very end, as you get close to the dark, you're dun 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 dun, dun, and the shark would come up out of the water. Unlike the movie, this thing did work, and it came out in all its glory with the teeth and everything. My son Owen screamed so loud when that shark came out of the water. To this day, he still mentions that to me when we go to Universal. So I don't know why they got rid of it. I don't know who thought it was a good idea to get rid of the Jaws ride over at Universal Studios, but if they ever go back and want to return with something classic, bring back the Jaws ride and the King Kong ride too while you're at it. But the Jaws ride was a fantastic.
I was lucky enough to have done that as well, and I remember it all decked out like it was 1975. It was they had all the banners and all that, the red, white, and blue. And it was huge that,
the only thing left is when you go down there, they have the docks, like you're down there in Amity, and they have the big shark.
Oh, yes. I had my photo with that.
You can take your picture on it. Yeah, that's the only thing left of the big Jaws ride that's down at Universal still. So
I'll see if I can dig out some of the photos that I took. That was in the old days when it wasn't digital cameras. It was
that was a real photograph.
It was real photos. So I'll have to go digging. But I was going to say there's some great online documentaries. Jamie Benning does an amazing documentary called Inside
James Gillette
Jaws.
is another guy that goes around and does the shark. The shark is still working. He did all the locations.
Which is narrated by Roy Scheider. There's some really good ones. There's a 4K version of Jaws that has just been released, which is really good. And there's some really good information on there.
And there's deleted scenes too, by the way.
There were a few. They filmed a lot, actually. There is quite a few deleted scenes in there, and you can watch them on the Blu-ray or DVD. I think
because Spielberg does not go back and re-edit his movies and put deleted scenes in there, but there are a lot of different takes, if you will, for Jaws or outtakes or something like that.
Apart from Close Encounters. Maybe we should do a Close Encounters show.
Maybe we should. Yeah, there's a lot. Yeah, he did the special edition. I remember he did go back and add scenes of the inside the mothership and all that. Yeah. So, yeah. But anyway, that wraps it up.
That's it. That's it for Jaws. So go watch it if you haven't seen it. Odds are, I'm sure you've seen it many times.
Seen it, yeah.
But it's probably worth revisiting because it's always good for a little bit of a fright, especially here in Australia where it's summertime. And in fact, I was just at the beach the other day. And of course, what do I think of? Jaws. That scene.
You know what they had in Martha's Vineyard?
You know, the camera going in, that fantastic.
That shot where it's like
Alfred Hitchcock shot. Yeah, exactly.
They in Martha's Vineyard in July for the Shark Fest, because they also have a big shark tournament up there. They have you could rent like a little boat or take your raft out there, and they have a screen that floats in the water in the lagoon.
Yes.
And they project Jaws on it, so you could actually watch, like instead of a drive-in, it's called a dive-in. And you go into it and you sit in the water and you watch Jaws as you're in the water, which is kind of creepy because kids, here's a little tip for you. Don't ever go in the water in the early morning hours and at night because that's when sharks feed. Don't do that. That's a bad thing, okay? And don't put your hands on the side of a boat if you're out in the ocean because they see something dangling. It's not good. Not good.
That's right.
Anyway.
That's our public service announcement.
That is. It's a PSA for you kiddies out there.
So if you enjoyed our show, thank you. That's very kind of you. How can you find out more and be alerted to when we come up with something new?
Well, Ed, it is as easy as going into a town hall meeting and taking your fingernails and scratch chalkboard and getting everybody crazy. All you have to do is hit the like. Oh, well, you can hit the like button too. That's always fun. Yeah. But hit the subscribe button and you'll go on the boat next time Ed and I are going out to sea. Make sure you bring your Dramamine in case you get a little seasick. And don't worry, we'll bring some porgies back for you so you can cook them up and have them for dinner. Just like Sheriff Brody did.
That sounds good. Yeah. So that's it for another excellent adventure with Mitch and Ed. Thanks for joining us. I'm Ed Dollister.
And I'm Captain Mitch Halleck.
And we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.